funding to support people with a disability. And so that also brings the opportunity of more funding to organisations that support people with a disability, and person-centred care, which is the ability very much for many organisations moving from the traditional group model or working with people with a disability with larger groups and providing similar services to person-centred care, which provides individualised services, and the person with a disability can choose what they want. The real challenge with that, though, is people's IT systems often struggle with those types of environments, and it means that the individualised care is a core aspect from that planning and making sure people are ready to prepare and provide those services. Flexible workplaces and partnerships, more and more as we've worked with organisations in the pilot areas, we're seeing more work happen out of the main central offices and potentially in people's homes, or out and much less is happening in the actual workplace of the organisation. And partnerships are another key element that is really important for many organisations moving forward to make sure they provide that person-centred care, even if their organisation doesn't provide everything, all the services that a particular individual might request or be interested in. The competition is another one that comes a little bit with funding, and we're seeing the competition for funding and competition for clients starting to appear more often in each of the pilot regions, and making sure that while the funding does present many more opportunities, so again does that competition mean that there's new pressures on organisations to ensure that they provide the services that people need if they're going to continue to provide the best possible care to the greatest number of people, care and support. The last one is those pressures to achieve efficient service delivery in terms of opportunities and challenges. What we saw in the final report of the Pricing Joint Working Group, which was just over a year ago now, was that the recommendation was that corporate overheads should be limited to between 9 and 12%. That's including technology, so it includes all other aspects of corporate overheads, HR, facilities, etc. And the proportion of staff time that should be client-facing is sort of in the 80 to 95% mark. And that places real pressure on individuals and on organisations to provide an efficient environment that doesn't waste staff time, but also to make sure that you don't spend too much money on technology and other corporate areas, so that you minimise those corporate overheads, or you really get value from it. And so that's really where technology can start to assist organisations operate effectively within that environment. Technology can help by engaging technology can help by engaging and ensuring that clients are supported, and in fact technology can really help them in their day-to-day lives, and also help them in your interactions with them by providing them the opportunity, or providing clients the opportunity to either change appointment times or request different services if they wish to via technology, rather than the more traditional aspects. Technology can also help by providing staff with the so that they can really provide those services and focus their time working with people working and supporting people rather than struggling with outdated systems or searching for paper case files or double or triple keying information into the appropriate systems. Technology can also provide funders with accurate service delivery data for prompt payment, and this is one of the things we've seen within an NDIS environment as one of the core differentiators. In moving to individualised care plans and individualised packages, organisations need to be able to provide the detail of what services have been provided to whom in an efficient way through to the National Disability Insurance Agency so that they can get paid promptly. And for that to happen efficiently, organisations really need to have that service delivery information available online so that they can deliver that information accurately and get paid promptly. Organisations that have traditionally used paper-based or Excel systems have generally found that they need to move to a different system where they're capturing their data electronically as they deliver services to enable that prompt payment and accurate information. The fourth one is to track and manage staff costs and utilisations, so you can make sure that you're hitting the staff are able to focus on delivering services to a client and they're not spending more time than is necessary on back-of-house services and administration. Attracting and engaging new clients is the fifth element that we've seen come in many of the NDIS trial sites. As clients start to think about, am I getting the services that I'm expecting? And one thing that we've seen, which is quite unusual in many of the other sites, is the systems to support people through that process, to provide good information to people with a disability, to track who's interested in the services of your organisation, to identify whether or not the people that are interested, what types of services they might be interested in, and then to bring them in and start providing them services is a new range of areas that technology can really help your organisation so that someone who's looking for services doesn't have to tell their story 2 or 3 times, and so information isn't lost throughout that journey. And the last one is obviously sharing good practice and communicating wins, which is really key to providing your staff and volunteers with the information they need to support people effectively and to ensure that wins are communicated and the culture of your organisation strengthens and grows along with the introduction of the NDIS. So they're the 6 ways that we've very much seen NDIS start to have implications for technology. And what we've done is designed this program to really help organisations think about those technology environments. And this slide here starts to show you how the program has been put together. So on the left-hand side, you'll start to see the key elements in terms of what an organisation needs to think about. And very much before coming into the program, what we do recommend is that organisations think about their business model and their service delivery strategy. before considering what technology systems might be appropriate for your organisation, it's very important to think about what type of services you're going to be delivering. Make sure that you understand the costs and the prices for those services, as well as the volumes that you need to achieve, to make sure that you can deliver those services cost effectively, and be clear to what extent are those services going to be delivered on your premises, on your client's premises, elsewhere, etc. Because the way your organisation needs to operate within an NDIS environment is absolutely key to making sure that you're going to pick the right system. If you're delivering attendant care services, your system that you're going to be, IT systems and environment, is going to be very different to one if you're generally providing employment services. And that's where being really clear about the services you're providing and how you're providing it, and your staffing model, whether there's staff, casual, or a mix of two, is really key to making sure that you get the right systems in place. And so from a program perspective, once you've got the business model and the service delivery strategy clear, there's a range of steps that we recommend organisations go through to think about the business requirements for your organisation and what you need, to identify your strengths and your weaknesses, to help you identify where the priorities are for your IT improvements, to make a plan to address those gaps and ensure that the technology that you acquire meets the needs of your organisation and supports your staff effectively. And then there's a process of gathering requirements, implementing new systems and reviewing. And what we're doing with the ImproveIT4NDIS program is we're providing resources under each of those core elements. So under Make an IT Improvement Plan, we're developing resources to support that collection of business requirements, to help organisations assess the IT readiness of their technology infrastructure, and to develop an IT improvement plan. To help you pick the right systems, we're developing resources to gather system requirements, to select and implement the system or multiple systems if you need so. And they're really so that you can attract new clients, deliver services efficiently, and invoice timely, so that you can start to improve the lives of people with a disability. So what we want to do is just talk through the first step, which is why start with an IT plan. And what we found in a recent survey was that almost half the non-profits without an IT plan have quite challenged or very basic IT capability. This survey was run by ourselves and Connecting Up, and the results were released in February 2015. And what we found was that for those organisations that didn't have a plan in place, 46% of those organisations rated their technology as either basic or challenged. If an organisation had an IT plan in place, only 15% of those organisations rated their technology as basic or challenged. And with technology being one of the key elements for the NDIS, this is where starting with an IT plan and identifying what you need to improve is really key from the perspective of making sure your organisation can get the right technology so that it is well able to support your staff and deliver efficient services. Because very much within a non-profit delivering disability services, many organisations find that there's always too much to be done from a technology perspective, and an IT plan really helps an organisation, whole organisation agrees what's important and then focus on the most important elements first, and two, to that technology improvement plan, and they get the commitment of either the resources, whether that be funding, whether that be people or both, to actually deliver that program. And that's where we find that technology improvement plan is the first key element in terms of starting to help your organisation improve your IT environment and prepare for the NDIS. So the ImproveIT4NDIS program, from an overview perspective, has two key components. The IT planning component you'll see in the top half of the slide, and the system selection component, the bottom half of the slide. So in the IT planning component, there's four key elements to that. First of all, there's a capability assessment process that supports organisations to undertake that capability assessment online themselves and to identify their strengths and their opportunities for where they can get better value out of their technology investment. Supporting that, we've got webinars on a range of different topics to help organisations become familiar with the key elements that are important with an NDIS environment, and workshops in each state or territory to help each organisation develop an IT improvement plan. Because out of the workshop, what we'll have, and the first workshops are starting in Tasmania later in December, with other states coming on down the track, because out of those workshops we'll have the key elements defined for an organisation to improve its technology environment. To help organisations, if they need it, take that improvement plan and actually flesh it out into more detail, we often help. There's also the option of individual mentoring to assist organisations finalise that IT plan and support the implementation of it if that's required. Underpinning both the IT planning and the system selection program, which I will talk through in a minute, will be a range of different online resources and guidelines which people can use as they come to each of the program. And the system selection program, again, covers a similar approach from the perspective of there will be, from a system selection, often what organisations need to look at from an NDIS perspective is first and foremost the system that they use to capture their client information and deliver services. And that's often the biggest impact from an NDIS perspective. From a secondary and tertiary perspective, we'll often find systems need to consider whether or not their finance systems are appropriate, whether or not they have appropriate systems to capture information about individuals who potentially may want their services, as well as timesheeting and rostering and other systems. So to support that, there'll be a systems matching process where we help, where The virtual IT department will help organisations gather their business requirements and identify possible systems that might be appropriate for them. There will then be workshops in each state and territory helping organisations evaluate the different systems and identify which ones best fit their needs, as well as webinars to give organisations overview of key systems and the selection process. And again, if an organisation feels it's beneficial, there's the option of mentoring to each organisation individually to support the system selection and implementation processes. So I might stop for a few questions. Matt?
Yes, so I haven't received any questions on the chat, but I'm happy to open up the phone just for a couple of minutes. So we will have an opportunity to also ask questions at the end. But was there any questions at this stage for Marcus? So NDIS has, is there a cost involved for the online resources?
So no online resources can really be available free of charge. There will also be, and so the workshops are also, there is a small cost to cover for each workshop, but it is minimal to cover just catering costs. Are there any other questions?
Okay, we'll save some time at the end for questions.
So,
there's another question about what is the target size? So what type of organisation is suitable?
The size of the organisations are, so the program is targeted for organisations with less than 50 service delivery staff. It may also be appropriate for larger organisations, but what we've done is we've targeted it at organisations with less than 50 service delivery staff, because we found that those are most often the organisations that can benefit from this sort. As you get more larger and more complex, there's often more unique and individual requirements, but we've also had feedback from some of these processes that you know, even organisations with 100 staff have found the workshops and the online information quite valuable. All right, we might keep moving. There will be more time for questions at the end. So the IT planning process, and we have one last question. Is NDIS going to recommend any systems? I know NDIS itself as an organisation, I do not believe will be recommending any systems, although they do have a system that they have made available, iPlanet. The virtual IT department will be supporting organisations through that system selection and matching process. They will be providing independent advice that will identify a small number of systems for each organisation that might be appropriate for them. All right, so I'm going to keep moving on, and I'll ask questions. We'll get some more questions at the end. So the rest of this webinar is going to focus more heavily on the IT planning process, and the way the process works is that we're expecting organisations who are interested to register for the project in your state, because the workshops are going to be state-based. Once you register, and there'll be links in a couple of slides for the registration and webinars and the other elements. Once you register, you will then be asked to complete an online self-assessment to assess your capability and technology readiness for the NDIS, and that will help you to identify your strengths and your opportunities from a technology perspective. There will be a range of webinars available which organisations are free to attend, any or all of those that are relevant to their situation and to their technical knowledge. So webinars will include topics such as, implications of the NDIS for your non-profit, an introduction to the cloud, enhancing your online presence, infrastructure moving to the cloud. It'll also cover other topics such as key systems that you might be interested in, and help you get that more general overview and understanding in preparation for the more detailed IT planning process. The workshops in each state will help each organisation understand the results of the self-assessment process that they took earlier, and also use that as input to developing an IT improvement plan. And so what each organisation will come out of after the 6-hour workshop is the key elements of the IT plan that they need to drive and improve, whether that be their governance processes, whether that be their technology infrastructure, whether that be a new client and case management system, or whether that be their staff skills and culture. And so the workshops will help each of the organisations identify those key elements and then provide the core framework of that IT improvement plan. As I mentioned earlier, the mentoring is optional for those organisations that feel that they could benefit to continuing the journey. The events that are running in the near future include a webinar on the leveraging your technology under the NDIS. That webinar will be held this Wednesday, so in 2 days at 1 p.m. The first of the IT planning workshops will be held in Hobart on the 2nd of December, the third in Launceston on the 3rd of December. There's links to register for those 3 you can see. In Adelaide, there's an IT planning workshop that will be held on the 15th of December, and the IT planning workshops in other states will be held in February or March. From a system selection workshops and webinars perspective, those will be held in February through to April. We're cognizant that not everyone is going to be available around the sort of mid-December through January period, and so we're focusing the program of work outside of those aspects. If you are interested in attending the program, we strongly encourage you to submit an expression of interest in the program so we can keep you abreast of the workshops and the webinars as the dates become finalised, and we can keep you across everything that the program has to offer. There's also a summary of the events that have been confirmed on the link at the bottom of the page. The resources that we're developing, of which there will be no cost to access any of these resources, will cover topics such as IT planning, technology governance, selecting a client information system, developing staff technology skills, and other aspects that are key for organisations that need to operate effectively within an NDIS environment. As resources are developed, they'll be made available on the ImproveIT website, which has a host of resources for organisations and is really targeted at those organisations with 50 staff or less and really want to make a difference from their technology environment. In terms of next steps, if you're in Tasmania, please register for the second webinar which is all about planning to leverage technology under the NDIS, where we'll be providing organisations with an overview of the workshop program, as well as a fair bit of detail on the self-assessment tool. So if you're in Tassie, or if you're keen on the program, please register for that second webinar. If you're in Hobart or Launceston, there's links to register for the 2 workshops. And as I mentioned earlier, if you're in one of the other states, please submit an expression of interest in the program so that you can be notified of when events in your state are confirmed. Adelaide is confirmed for the 15th of December, so please save the date if you're in South Australia. There's Brian's email there, Brian is coordinating the program, but you can also contact your local state office, as they will be coordinating the program in each state and territory. So I might stop there and just check how we're going with questions. Matt, I'll hand it back to you and see if there's any other questions.
Yes, I'm just unmuting everyone now. So again, you feel free to write the chat, or I'll happy to open up the phone now for anyone to ask any questions about the program. Any questions? So the real purpose of today was really to give everyone a high-level overview of the project over the next few months, and give you some information about the next steps. So particularly I believe a lot of you are from Tasmania, so you're the next group of people who will be undertaking the planning workshop. So it was to give you a bit of an idea of what to expect, and then introduce some of the things that you'll need to know in regards to the second webinar, and then the registration details for the planning workshops. So I'll throw back out. We deliberately saved sort of five minutes for questions, so we've got plenty of time. So feel free to speak up.
So given we've got a little bit of time, I might just jump to one of the resources that we'll be using both in the digital capability self-assessment that helps organisations understand their technology strengths and weaknesses, and also that we'll be using in the workshop to help organisations identify their core IT improvement actions. So we will be using a framework for digital capability that looks across 6 key areas of technology. The 6 being governance, planning and management, common IT platforms and service delivery systems, social media marketing and the public website, staff and volunteer skills and culture, and risk management and disaster recovery. And what the self-assessment tool will do, and which we'll then build on in the workshop, is help organisations to understand in each of those 6 areas, where are they? Are they at the starting out level for each of those 6 areas? So for instance, in governance, planning and management, they might have no IT plan. They might be ad hoc and they'll fix problems when they come up, but not and be reactive in nature. Or are they at the basic level? So in the common IT platforms and collaboration tools, they might have some simple shared information services, but with limited remote access. Another organisation might be at the intermediate level. So for client information and service delivery systems, you might have the intermediate level, you'd have a functional client information system, but there'll be some limitations in it. So, you know, it might be hard for staff to access remotely, and every now and then they have to work out of the office, or it might not be fully integrated with the invoicing or financing systems. And also some organisations will be at the advanced level in some of these. So in risk management and disaster recovery, that would mean they would have a practical IT plan that's regularly tested. There's client data and service provision capability protected with good redundancy and security provisions. So what we'll do in the self-assessment and then building upon it in the workshop is to help organisations identify where they are in that framework and then help them identify what the priority is for their improvement priorities. And what we've found in our work with other organisations is that most organisations generally need to be around about the intermediate level or better in most, if not all, of the 6 categories here. And so that's what we're going to be working with organisations on, is helping you to identify how you can improve each of these elements and in what order you should do it, because we generally find that prioritising is key to success and making sure you have the commitment of the organisation to improving your systems and processes as it needs to. All right, Matt, I might hand back to you and see if there's any other questions, or if not, we might let people go a couple of minutes early.
Sure, yes. So yeah, throw it open. The phones are there. We will also be recording these webinars and accessing them at a later date. But yeah, I'll throw it open for questions. Certainly is a quiet group today, so that means you must have everything all answered for you. So we look forward to getting all the registrations in for the workshops, and if your workshop hasn't been locked in yet in your city, make sure you submit your expression of interest, and we look forward to seeing you in the next webinar on Wednesday. Thanks everyone, appreciate your time. All right, bye from us.